It's time for the Hockey Writers Grindline, a weekly show covering everything Detroit Red Wings. Brought to you by our own iconic top line of Wings writers. Sit back and enjoy The Grind.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of The Grind Line here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and as always, joined in by my line mate, Devin Little. We're just a defense pairing on this episode, a quick one we're going to do. We don't want to leave. Took the week off last week. We're refreshed. We're back at it. And we don't want to leave you guys with another episode not coming out. So we're here. Devin, how's it going?
We're good. It's been a minute since we've been in defense pairing. We've been playing forward so long. Might have a few miscues along the way. It's been a minute since I played defense, but we'll hopefully this goes smoothly.
Yeah. We shift back to defense. Yeah, it's been a bit, but we'll do it. We'll go through. So we're just going to get right into it and talk about the World Championships, which just ended. Lucas Raymond was prominent in that and helped Sweden win a bronze medal. So we all know about Lucas Raymond, how well he did during the season. He won some awards in our grindies there. So great season for him. And then he caps it off with a bronze medal. We know he's really good. I mean, we know right now, at least, he is really good. But he has a long career ahead of him with the Red Wings and the NHL here. Hopefully the whole time with the Red Wings. You never know, with players just don't seem to play for their entire careers with the same team. But we'll see if Raymond can do it. What do you think, Devin, is his ceiling? I mean, we've talked a lot about his potential on this show of how many goals he could score in his career. But what do you think his ultimate ceiling is in the NHL? Very young age still.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a reoccurring theme from this season is just, oh man, Lucas Raymond has arrived, right? And like you said, we have talked about his potential a lot on the show, even going back a couple seasons when he made his rookie debut. Obviously, choo choo and all that good stuff. I think that the player that so when it comes down to it, I think we're going to look back on 2024 as kind of the year that Lucas Raymond really arrived.
Yeah.
Because 2023, beginning of it, he's finishing kind of a sophomore slump season. Second half of 2023 is the beginning of this season. And he obviously looked pretty good. But I feel like once the calendar flipped to 2024 is when he really started to hit that next level and really start to enter the conversation of who's the Red Wings' best player. That's when Dylan Larkin started to miss time, and he kind of assumed the role of the Red Wings' top forward, which is crazy considering all the other forwards that were on the team, right? And then he scored some clutch goals down the stretch when the Red Wings were fighting for their playoff chances. And then with Sweden, he, not only has a point per game, or I think even just a little bit over that. I think he had 9 points in 8 games or 8 points in 9 games, something like that. So he's like you said, a prominent player for Sweden. And he also has an A on his sweater. So, obviously that kind of shows some faith, not just from a talent perspective, but also he's kind of looked on to lead the way for what was an NHL Latin roster. And he's not even old enough to rent a car and to be off of his he would still qualify to be on his parents' insurance here in the States. So he's still very young. I think the thing that's really exciting to me about Lucas Raymond is that we're starting to see him kind of combine his competitiveness with his skill.
Yeah.
You see just recently against Czechia where he's kind of getting into it with Dominik Kubalik, his former teammate with the Red Wings last season. And even, throughout the season with the Red Wings, he has a little bit of chippiness to him. I think he's gonna assimilate well to playoff hockey when the Red Wings do eventually get there. And I think he's gonna be a key player for them too, from an emotional and a offensive standpoint. So What do I think his ceiling is? I think he has the potential to be the Red Wings' best player, even when all this kind of said and done. Um, kind of uh I mean, honestly, a little tough for me to nail down an exact player that um, I'm thinking of right now, but almost like a Mitch Marner, a
Mm,
weird comparison to make considering the Maple Leafs have a lot of other guys you can make that argument for. But Marner's a great player, good playmaking player that has some good, strong two-way ability. I think Raymond kind of fits that category too. But I also think that Raymond's not going to be like a huge scorer. Um, and it's mostly because he plays for the Red Wings. When I think about the Red Wings and scoring, I think about the fact that Pavel Datsyuk never had a 100-point season, and then there was a period of time when he was probably the best player in the planet.
mhm.
Um, the Red Wings have always just kind of spread it around, and I think that that will kind of continue to be the case. I think that Raymond very much has 80-point potential, and I think he even has 90-point potential. Good, consistent 30-goal seasons year after year, maybe even a couple where he hits 40. Um, and he might even like push towards 100, but I'm gonna fall back on the idea of if Pavel Datsyuk couldn't do it, then I don't know that Lucas Raymond's gonna do it. But still, if he's a perennial 90-point guy, I think that's all you can ask for, considering where they got him and what how important of a pick he was in the middle of the rebuild. So I continue to be very, very excited about Lucas Raymond. I hope you are too, because especially this year, he's given us all sorts of reasons to be excited about him.
For sure. And the thing is, the international, like he had, yeah, 9 points in 10 games, so 4 goals in 10. And last year at the World Championship, he had 8 points in 8 games. So, he seems to be able to step up in the big times. And like you said, when the playoffs come around, looks like he could be a guy that could be a prominent player in the postseason too. So that's something that I think he's going to end up becoming. He's already shown it. And I mean, international play is pretty much the playoffs. You get to a point where you're eliminated if you don't win, and he seems to be able to step up in those occasions. So, and World Juniors, I mean, we all know he did what he did at the World Juniors too. He was a very, very good player there. Seems to be a guy that's may end up, well, not may, he will end up in the Olympics at one point
Oh yeah,
too. So, I mean, maybe in the next one. I don't know. We'll see. That's something that's coming up, and then what is it? 2026 is the next Olympics.
yeah, yeah.
So I mean, not this coming year, but next year, he could end up being in that discussion to be on Team Sweden, because I mean they obviously know what he can do wearing that Tre Kroner. So we'll see. We'll see what that. I do agree. I think he could be a 30-40 goal guy. Maybe not always, but definitely in that realm, close to it. He had 31 goals this year. Very durable player too. He's played already 2 seasons of 82 game seasons. So he's going to have that potential to score that many goals. One off the rush question I have for you though. I'm not going to ask about 10 because I've asked this before, but who do you think would be the best? Because it already has chemistry with Dylan Larkin. Who do you think would complete that line? I mean, it doesn't have to be a guy that's already on the Red Wings, but in the NHL, who do you think would be the best guy that the Red Wings could get? I know maybe a loaded question, but who do you feel would complement those two the best?
Realistically, there's a couple of options that come to mind. One of which we saw a lot this season. Alex DeBrincat, it seems like uh, the Larkin, DeBrincat, and Raymond line was just kind of consistently really, really good. They consistently were able to apply pressure. If one guy, it seemed like if one guy wasn't scoring and the other two were,
Yeah.
they kind of just, it was hard to contain them. And I think that while I understood why they put DeBrincat with Patrick Kane once they signed him, it was one of those things where late in the season, DeBrincat played with Larkin and Raymond because um, they just had it going. And it was kind of loading up the top line, but it is what it is. But the other guy that kind of comes to mind aside from DeBrincat, um, is actually Carter Mazer. And the
Mm,
reason why Carter Mazer comes to mind is because Carter Mazer has always kind of reminded me of Tyler Bertuzzi. Um, just he's that type of player, kind of scrappy, goes to the dirty areas, is willing to get his nose a little dirty and do the ugly work, so to speak. That's Bertuzzi. And in Raymond's first season with the Red Wings, the top line was Larkin, Raymond, and Tyler Bertuzzi, and they worked really well together. There were plenty of games where they were the Red Wings' only line that could do anything. So why not kind of remake that line just with Mazer instead of Bertuzzi?
Mhm.
And I think that Mazer would provide just an added level of sandpaper that you wouldn't get with a DeBrincat. And that would allow DeBrincat to play lower in the lineup as well with whoever is there, whether it's Patrick Kane or whoever. But I think both would be good options, and both have, well, at least in DeBrincat's case, he's proven that he looks good alongside those two others. And Mazer is the profile of a player that has looked good alongside those two as well.
Mhm. I like that Carter Mazer one. I think he could potentially be. We've talked about him potentially making the lineup next year, and I don't know if he jumps right to that top line, but maybe a future line mate for them. We know Larkin and Raymond are going to be Red Wings for a long, long time, so Major is going to have a chance to get that. And one quick one, you mentioned Bertuzzi. He's a free agent coming up. Do you see a world that the Red Wings return to that and maybe put their hat in the ring to get Bertuzzi back?
Could I see a world? Absolutely. Obviously, it would depend on term and money and this and that and this and that. But no, I could definitely see it. Obviously, Larkin and Bertuzzi were very close. I think of Larkin choking up and tearing up when he was speaking to the media after the Bertuzzi trade, and spent a lot of years together. And obviously, I just mentioned the chemistry that Bertuzzi had with Larkin and Raymond. So, it's often when you sign free agents, you're like, how are they going to fit? Do we know if they're going to fit this or that? Tyler Bertuzzi would fit. So it's about as safe of a bet as you could make in free agency. It just kind of would depend on what it always depends on, right? Term and dollars.
Yeah. He didn't leave the Red Wings on bad terms. It's not like he requested a trade or they, stuff like that. So yeah, it could definitely be something that the Red Wings entertain. I don't know. I know the Bruins are talking about getting Bertuzzi back too, and obviously the Maple Leafs are looking at getting him back because he was pretty good at the end of the season for him. So yeah, that just a name that seems to be Bertuzzi could end up being back in Detroit. We'll see. All right, let's move on to the AHL team and the Grand Rapids Griffins, who finished their series in Milwaukee Admirals. Unfortunately, losing the game and the series 3-2, best of 5. But they were right in it right to the end, and it was, deep in the playoffs. So very good for the Griffins, who have made the playoffs in a bit. So very, very good postseason for them and season in general. So what do you think? I mean, what about their season are you the most encouraged by? Lots of prospects that played most of the year there. It wasn't, called up or a lot of call-ups because of the veteran-laden roster. So they had a lot of players down there for most of the season. What are the positives from it that you're taking away?
Well, first and foremost, it looks like the Griffins have found their coach with Dan Watson. Obviously, the previous coach, Ben Simon, he got them to the playoffs a couple of years in the early part of his tenure, but then basically once the pandemic began, they never got back there and they never quite looked like the Griffins of old, we'll just say. So to bring in Dan Watson as a first time AHL head coach, and to have a season like this, it's exciting. It's reassuring that they found their guy, really. And it's also a good thing that he has a good relationship with Derek Lalonde, the head coach in Detroit. Lalonde speaks highly of him whenever he has the opportunity. So that the organization is in sync when it comes to the NHL and the AHL team. And that's really important, especially for a team like Detroit that's very much in a developmental phase of their build. The other parts, other things that I'm excited about, obviously individual players. I think Sebastian Cossa had a really good year. I think that he, especially late in the season, he kind of cemented himself as the top option in goal for the Griffins, and that's exactly what you wanted to see. Um, and now, moving into the off season and next season, the question is how much longer does Costa have in the AHL? I'm of the belief that he has one more year in Grand Rapids to go, probably as the top, the no question bona fide top guy, or he's going to play 50 to 60 games and they'll have a backup of some sort behind him. I think that's kind of the next step for him. And it's, again, awesome to see him look like the goalie they drafted him to be this year. And then also just development of key prospects. There's a lot of guys that looked really good. Some players that are more important to the organization than others, but to see guys like Marco Casper really come alive over the course of the season and start to fit in with the team and playing a North American style of game. Carter Mazer looking like a bona fide pro, and he definitely looks like somebody who's going to be pushing next season. Simon Edvinsson looking like a man against boys a lot of times in that league. No question he'll be in the NHL, we hope.
Yeah.
And just down the list, I mean, even just seeing Nate Danielson get a couple games with the Griffins in their second round series against the Admirals, just even that's exciting to see, just because pipeline's going to just kind of continuously produce guys. And I guess one last player I'll shout out to is Jonathan Berggren, who was by far their best forward, outproduced everybody on the roster, was again by far their best forward, not just in terms of production, but just the eye test. He regularly was making things happen. He regularly looked like their best player. Probably because he played 60 NHL games last year, but but I feel like he handled this season as best as you could have asked him to.
Yeah.
He spent the year down there, was called up when he could be and played in Detroit when he could, and then when he was sent back to Grand Rapids, he went back and dominated and continued to dominate. I think there's no question that there are lesser players that would have handled it a lot worse than he would have. And I think that there's no question in my mind that he is too good for the AHL. He's going to be in the NHL next season, whether it's with the Red Wings or someone else.
Yeah.
He's earned it. And I think it's fitting that with their backs against the wall in Game 4, they're down by 2 or they're down by 3 against the Admirals, and who leads the charge in the third period to get a win. They were down by 2. Jonathan Berggren, he gets 2 goals, basically tying the game up by himself. And then he seemingly scored a hat trick to seal a victory, and then his first goal was later credited to Marco Casper, so he did only end up with 2 goals. But he was on the ice. He was making things happen, right? He's basically he was the first star of the night for a reason.
Yeah.
I think that there was a lot of places you can point to and go, that's promising on this Griffins team. And for all intents and purposes, I think there's a lot of guys that will not be on the team next year, but a lot of guys that will return and will be on the team next year. And I think that if you're a Griffins fan, you should be very excited about what this team could do next year, because I think they aren't looking to just make the playoffs and have a run this next year. I think that they're going to be looking to add a banner to the rafters at Van Andel Arena, and I think that they very well might have the talent to do it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the younger prospects will be in the in the roster next year again. Mazer maybe as well. I mean, we'll see if he makes the team, but he could be up and down throughout the season. Had 8 points in 9 games overall, and let's say Berggren 10 points in 9 games. That was leading the way. Guys like that, that's you're expecting to dominate. They are, and that's great. And having, like you say, Danielson getting that bit of experience in the Calder Cup playoffs, that was good. He didn't get any points, but didn't get much of ice time either. I mean, they're not going to be given a ton. But very encouraging. A lot of the guys you mentioned, and with Berggren, it's tough. Like I don't know if he's going to be on the team. There are not a lot of roster spots open up because there not a lot of free agents leaving the team this coming off season. So he's gonna have to fight his way on, or like you say, he could be on another team too, because we've talked about him as being a trade piece for the Red Wings. So yeah, and Casper 4 goals too. So lots of encouraging signs coming out for a lot of these players and for the team in general. Do you see Cossa fighting for the backup spot next year, or is that too early?
I can see him fighting for it. I think that he's going to hopefully be a very strong number 3 on the depth chart. Um, with the potential to surprise a lot of people and end up playing a handful, if not more, games in Detroit, especially if injuries happen. Lord knows, Ville Husso had a heck of a go this season. So if that were to continue and Husso's still with the Red Wings next year, I think you might see a lot of Alex Line and a lot of Sebastian Cossa, which could be frightening if you're looking at it from one perspective, but also could be very, very exciting if you're looking at it from another.
Yeah. I don't know. It will all depend on if Yzerman signs another veteran goaltender for Detroit. I mean, if that happens, they're okay. They're for sure wanting Cossa to play the full season again, which could be good for him. I don't know. There's always a balancing act with rookie goaltenders. Like, do you want them playing the backup and playing only, I don't know, 25, 30 games? Or do you want them playing, like you say, upwards of 60 down in the minors, which is probably better for their development? Mm-hmm. Then you're also looking at they're getting more time with the goaltending coach up in the NHL. You're learning from the starter. It's where you think, I guess, where they are in their development, what's better for them. And that's always a tough thing with goaltenders, but we'll have to see what happens coming up for Cossa, because it's very encouraging that he had such a great season, because there were some worries that maybe he wasn't what everyone thought he was. So it's good his development's on the upward trend rather than the middling or downward, right? So we'll see. All right, well, that's a quick episode for us here on the Grind Line, but and yeah, we'll just have to find out what Yzerman has in store, and we're gonna talk about free agency, lots of stuff coming up, trades on the next episode. So, and we'll have Evan back for that one. But thanks, Devin, for joining me here, and make sure to check out everything at thehockeywriters.com. We've got articles out every day on different things for the off season and the draft coming up, which the Red Wings have a pretty high pick in. And that's a little over a month away. So we're closing in on a month, actually. The 28th, 29th is June, right? 28 and 29. Mm-hmm. And we're on the 26th. So we're coming up on a month. So lots of draft content coming, and lots of great guests we have lined up coming up in the off season. Not all of them are confirmed, but look forward to it. We're going to have some exciting stuffs coming up. So make sure to check out everything else, and until next time, we'll see you on another episode of The Grind.